a new Star Wars Disney Plus show is coming out in just under a week. If you're watching this later, you're from the future. I don't know what to tell you. Like, the show's probably already out. Don't come at me about this. But there's a chance that you aren't like us and you know every little fucking detail about Star Wars there is to know about it. That's great. Maybe you have a significant other that does, and they've strapped you to the chair, and all you care about is Baby Yoda, but your significant other's like holding your eyes open like Clockwork Orange style. Like, you need to know everything about this before Ahsoka comes out.
You see that orange girl? She's important.
Yes. We'll tell you why. Get help. That isn't a man that you want to be with. Just saying. But we're going to give you the ultimate Ahsoka recap in an undetermined amount of minutes because this isn't finished yet, and I don't know how long it's going to take.
Well, let's aim for 20.
Yeah, it'll say in the title what it is. And then while you're here, make sure you like the video, give us a subscribe, do the bell icon. I think is the thing you're supposed to do. It'll let you know when we're live and we do new videos. We do a live show every Wednesday at 6, and we do Battlefront Star Wars game streams throughout the week.
I forgot my stopwatch. Are you ready?
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. I can see how long it takes in the video editor too. That's fine. You do you. You're doing great. Okay. If there's anything important that we missed, put it in the comments, and one of us will read them and lose sleep over them, I'm sure. This isn't just about Ahsoka, by the way. Mm-hmm. I went through everything I could remember from Star Wars. I had my Wikipedia open, and I was like, okay, if I were explaining this to a significant other I've strapped to the chair and pried their eyes open, what would I tell them?
You prefaced this for like 28 seconds, still haven't told me anything about Ahsoka.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can tell you she was born on a planet called Sheely.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of primitive, but they do this thing where, like, it would be a really safe thing to do with an infant. We'll go on a solo hunt with them to go find these like really dangerous space panthers. Just the mother and the little baby,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
It's great fucking idea. Very dangerous. Why the fuck not? So, as to be expected, Ahsoka's about to get eaten by a space panther, but like tames it with the Force. And so they're like, oh, this baby's probably Force sensitive. We should probably call the Jedi because they take Force sensitive babies.
They do Force things.
Yeah. And if we let them, they won't do it against our will and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
So a Jedi Council member Plo Koon shows up and he's like, give me your baby. And they're like, we called you. And he's like, oh, can I have your baby? Yes. So then comes episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now this can be very brief, but you got to know. Queen of Naboo, there's a trade dispute. Senator Palpatine's there. Fucking Jedi Knights, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn go to rescue. They end up on Tatooine. They find a kid named Anakin Skywalker. The Sith have reappeared. They go back to Naboo. Qui-Gon Jinn dies. Darth Maul gets cut in half and dies, presumably. And Obi-Wan is in charge of turning Anakin Skywalker, who's supposed to be the chosen one, has a huge midichlorian count, and
also has a huge crush on the Queen of Naboo, which you're not supposed to do as a Jedi.
Yes. Well, he's not a Jedi yet, and also he's only 9 and she's 14, which you would know if you knew the Weird Al song. You should go listen to it. So, meanwhile, in the unknown regions, we're jumping around a lot.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
There are going to be a lot of things where you're going to be like, okay, we're going to pin that. That's going to come back later. Okay. I'm sorry. These are the rants of a crazy man that knows too much about Star Wars. Just fucking deal with it.
If you had a corkboard, it would have Pepe Silvia on it.
Yep. So there's a race of aliens called the Chiss. They're blue. They have red eyes. They're out in the unknown regions, which is separated from the rest of the galaxy because of a weird cataclysm that happens in the Old Republic era, where there's this huge accident in hyperspace.
Hyperspace just doesn't work between here and there.
Right. So it's very dangerous, and you like, if you don't have the Force, you're probably going to die trying to traverse it and everything. Right. So this race of people called the Chiss are like very political, and this is where a young man called Mithran Urodo,
or just Thrawn,
which is way easier to say.
No one ever uses his full name. He's just Thrawn. Right.
So he's born, and he's like a genius level tactician, and he likes art. He could tell what kind of cancer you'll have if you sit down and like draw a penis and everything and be like, you have cancer.
He's really fucking smart is what we're saying.
So episode 2 happens. There's an assassination attempt on Senator Amidala, Count Dooku, and the Separatists. They're trying to secede from the Republic. Anakin is a horny teenager in a religion that isn't allowed to bang. So here's an idea. Let's send him on a solo mission with the love of his life. Everything will be fine there. Obi-Wan discovers there's a clone army Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme are captured on Geonosis. The Clone Wars start, and the Jedi are pulled into a war as generals. They don't want to do that.
The Jedi arguably start the war? I mean, they kind of just show up and say, hey, we're fighting now.
Yeah, we're in this. We're in it now. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine now is all like, ooh. All right. Wartime has made the Jedi very stupid. Mm-hmm. And as a result, Anakin has graduated to Jedi Knight before some people would argue he's ready. Seconds after he becomes a Jedi Knight, he's given a Padawan because a lot of Jedi Masters are now dead, and that's the best the Jedi can do. And that Padawan...
This was a plot point in that recent book, Rise of the Red Blade.
So that Padawan's name is Ahsoka Tano. Mm-hmm. So Ahsoka, in the beginning...
She's orange. She holds her lightsaber backwards. She's really annoying in the beginning.
She is very annoying. She calls Anakin Sky Guy. It gets me every fucking time I hear it. But she's kind of like, she's promising. Yeah. And, you know...
She does cool flips. Yeah. She cuts droids in half.
The master-apprentice relationship between them is really funny. Anakin has no idea what the fuck he's doing as a teacher, and he like takes the sink or swim method with Ahsoka, where he's like, "We're just going to shoot you, and you're going to keep blocking. If you get shot, that's
your fault."
Yep. Ahsoka makes some friends during the Clone Wars, including Captain Rex, who, like a lot of the clones, all of them are individuals, despite no one thinking as them as individuals.
And sometimes they just pick names, instead of going by their numbers.
Yeah. So Captain Rex is her guy. Yeah. That's her clone guy. And she makes a friend called Barriss Offee, who is a Padawan to the Jedi Knight, Jedi Master Luminara Unduli, which, by the way, they're both the same race.
Yeah.
And I understand that there are usually human Master Padawan pairs, but normally with other races, you don't see two of the same race, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I would argue it's just statistics.
Probably.
Like humans are supposed to be the most populous race in the galaxy. So
it's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
They probably both have nothing, like they don't know anything about their past because they're Jedi.
Yeah.
So during the Clone Wars, there's a planet called Ryloth, and it's having its own entire story. Right. So freedom fighters are fighting against the separatists. They're led by a guy named Cham Syndulla, who has a daughter named Hera, and she has a droid named Chopper. So we're going to pin that over here. On Mandalore, the Mandalorians are, for some reason, no one can understand, pacifists. And they're neutral during the Clone Wars. And there's actually a reason for this.
There's like 3 different factions of Mandalorians.
Yeah. They are very good at fighting each other. Yes. So they're like, if we don't fight at all, it'll solve the whole problem. Right? No. So they're led by the Mandalorian Duchess Satine, who, by the way,
Obi-Wan has a huge boner for.
He fell in love with her when he was a teenager, and actually, it turns out might have actually left the Jedi Order for her, but neither of them would have asked the other to abandon their duty. That's how committed they were and shit. Oh, Darth Maul is alive, motherfuckers. The top half, not the bottom half, and he's real mad at Obi-Wan and Darth Sidious.
Understandably so,
because he was just a tool. He was used as a tool,
and now he's half of a tool.
Yeah. And so he's plotting his revenge against both, right? Maul has a brother. His name's Savage.
Savage Opress.
Dumbest name in all of Star Wars.
Which is the most Star Wars name imaginable.
There's a Mandalorian cult called Death Watch. And it's a Mandalorian sect that opposes Satine's pacifism. And so Maul takes his brother, Death Watch, some other criminal enterprises, unites them, and takes over Mandalore. And he murders Satine right in front of Obi-Wan, which, when you watch it, is heartbreaking every single time. Obi-Wan doesn't turn to the dark side, by the way. Just saying.
He's better than that.
Yeah. So Maul wins the Darksaber. So now he's the boss of Mandalore. What's the Darksaber? It's a black lightsaber. The Mandalorians think it's pretty, so whoever has it is the boss of Mandalore. That's all you need to know. So the Mandalorians all break off into clans. And there's the Children of the Watch, and they rescue a little boy named Din Djarin during the Clone Wars. Okay?
Just stick a pin in that.
Yep. Somewhere in here, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka go to Mortis. And this is a weird fucking thing in Clone Wars, but I think it's very, very important to probably what we're going to see in Ahsoka. It's this weird Force realm ruled by Force gods called the Son, the Daughter, and the Father, who represents the dark side, the light side, and the balance of the Force, respectively. Ahsoka is killed, but the daughter gives up her life to bring her back. And when she comes back, like Amorai, which is like a space owl, starts to follow Ahsoka around, and it's like a reminder of the daughter or whatever. Right after this, or sometime after this, Padme goes on a mission in the Clone Wars and doesn't text Anakin back. And because he's perfectly balanced and not at all obsessed, he takes it well.
He does not take it well.
That is a lie. He does not take it well at all. He immediately goes to rescue her and meets this blue dude named Thrawn. Right? Thrawn is just hanging out, trying to find allies for the Chiss. The Chiss, like they need allies for like this upcoming war.
Because it's not easy being blue.
Yeah. And he like Thrawn thinks Anakin's pretty rad, so they become buds, right? Yeah. They have a little adventure together. Doesn't matter what they do. Anakin rescues Padme. Turns out she probably didn't need him to rescue her at all. And the war rages.
She never needs him to rescue her. Padme is way more competent than Anakin is.
Yeah, that is true. So they return to Coruscant to discover that someone did a 9/11 on the Jedi Temple, and lots of people died. And plot twist: Ahsoka Tano has been framed, and she's expelled from the Jedi Order. And this is like the peak of the Jedi stupidity. And it's where I realized that the Jedi brought their fate on themselves, right? Because there's no reason for them to have done what they did. And literally any amount of investigating would have proven her innocence. Nah, they don't have fucking time for it. So they just expel her, right? It's stupid as fuck. So Ahsoka does her own investigating. And after like 5 minutes, discovers that her old friend Barriss Offee is responsible. What's her motive? The Jedi have become an army for the dark side and are too violent, so her reaction was to kill a lot of people. Make sense to you? It made sense to her. So the Jedi Council is like, oh, well, we're sorry.
Our bad.
Yeah.
Did you want to be a Jedi again?
You guys want to come back? Like, you want to come back? And she's like,
Ahsoka's like, no.
No, you guys suck. And this is like a starting catalyst for Anakin's resentment of the Jedi Council. Because he never believed that she did it. And like he advocated for her throughout and he tried to help her and shit. So pinning that up, we're going to bring that back later. Bo-Katan Kryze, who is a Mandalorian, recruits Ahsoka to help take Mandalore back from Maul, who is still leading Mandalore.
Yep.
He's like, I'm king of Mandalore, everyone suck it. And Bo-Katan Kryze is like, no, I will not do that. And so they hatch this plan to take over Mandalore. So Ahsoka leads a special squad of clones from the 501st to take Mandalore back. She beats Maul in a fucking epic duel. Okay. Meanwhile, Palpatine is kidnapped by General Grievous, and Obi-Wan and Anakin rescue him. Turns out Padme is pregnant.
This is all episode 3, by
yes. And Anakin has some bad dreams about her dying. Palpatine plants the seeds of betrayal with the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Obi-Wan is sent to Utapau to defeat General Grievous and bring it into the war. Palpatine comes out to Anakin as a Sith, comes out of the closet. He's like, I'm a Sith. And he's like, that's not what I thought you would say. Mace Windu and friends go to arrest Palpatine. Most of them die.
It does not go well.
But Mace Windu defeats Palpatine in a duel. But Anakin helps Palpatine because he has the secret to keep Padme alive, which was a lie to begin with.
Yes.
So Mace Windu dies. Order 66 happened.
Mace Windu is dead, by the way.
Sorry. Now, all the clones have this little backup thing where they're like, execute Order 66.
Chip in their heads, or execute Order 66. Okay, kill the nearest Jedi.
Yeah, and they kill all the Jedi. So most of the Jedi are killed. Not Grogu, who is a little baby Yoda.
Who is saved by...
Kelleran Beck.
Kelleran Beck, the actor who plays Jar Jar.
Yeah. Caleb Dune survives. His Master Depa Billaba is gunned down right in front of him. Ahsoka survives because she's kind of a badass now. And
Cal Kestis survives.
Yes. He doesn't really factor into this much, actually.
No.
But
he's out there.
Yeah. So she's on Mandalore doing all this when Order 66 happens, when they're on their way back. And her clones try to gun her down. And she's like, you know what? Fuck it. She lets them all out of his prison cell. And she's like, I need you to do something evil. And he's like, oh, girl, I got this.
I thought you'd never ask.
So she helps her friend Rex get his inhibitor chip out. So Obi-Wan and Anakin duel in Mustafar. It doesn't go well for Anakin. He gets burned alive.
He tries it when he should not try it.
Yeah, exactly. Darth Vader is born in the way that we know him, which is black helmet and shit. So Padme, his wife, probably ex-wife at this point, dies during childbirth.
She loses the will to live.
Yes, gives birth to twins. Yoda and Obi-Wan exile themselves to watch over them. One of these, by the way, gets a much better deal than the other one. Leia gets to live in opulence with a politician. Luke literally sucks sand water out of sand and tries to sell it for a living his entire life. So Darth Sidious has won. His master plan to take over the Republic has worked. He
wins.
He reorganizes the Republic into the Galactic Empire. Vader now has a little hobby. And his hobby is hunting down the Jedi that survived Order 66. And he's using a group of Dark Force users called Inquisitors, led by the Grand Inquisitor, who used to be a Jedi Temple Guard.
Most of the Inquisitors are like former Jedi trainees or people who were either
Force sensitive or
either fell to the dark side themselves or were forced.
Right. So Ahsoka tries to do the hidden Jedi life, but is tracked down by an Inquisitor who she kills, despite the fact that she's unarmed and he has one of the twirly lightsabers. She's like, nah, bro, just cuts him down. So Bail Organa, who adopts Leia, recruits Ahsoka to fight against the Empire. She's bored and she's lonely, so she says, fine.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. She uses the codename Fulcrum to organize cells of freedom fighters to fight against the Empire.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Thrawn is discovered by Palpatine and is fast-tracked through Imperial School.
Because he's smart as fuck.
Makes everyone hate him. And it's actually pretty extraordinary because Palpatine does not like aliens, but he really likes Thrawn because Thrawn really is exceptional, right?
Yeah.
He quickly rises through the ranks and becomes a Grand Admiral. Meanwhile, a group of friends form on the good guy side. There's Kanan Jarrus, a secret former Jedi, Sabine Wren, who's a brilliant scientist and inventor from Mandalore, Harrison Dula, a famed freedom fighter from Ryloth, Zeb, whose race was practically eradicated by the Empire, and Chopper, who's a very violent, murderous astromech droid. They do little missions for it's not even the proto-rebellion yet. It's not even that yet, right?
It's just, Fulcrum's buddies.
Right. So a couple of things to know about Hera and Kanan. They're fucking.
Okay.
That's pretty much it, actually. There's just one thing to know about Hera and Kanan. They're doing
the good thing about the Jedi falling is that now Kanan fucks.
Yeah. So this group, who are called the Spectres, go to Lothal and they steal supplies and they meet a young street rat called Aladdin. Ezra Bridger. Ezra's parents are presumably killed by the Empire, but he's like in denial about it.
Yeah.
But he's force sensitive. And Kanan has a conversation with Ezra, and this is how it goes. Kanan's like, I'm going to train you to be a Jedi. And Ezra's like, okay. That's the start of their relationship. Yeah. So now there are two Jedi.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
With nice lightsabers running around creating problems for the Empire, which is a job for the Inquisitorius.
Or, Vader.
The Inquisitorius.
Okay.
Vader doesn't get involved unless it's super serious, right? Or unless he gets bored.
Yeah.
Usually when he gets bored, he just kills Inquisitors, and that's fine. So turns out Kanan is not a very good teacher because he never became a Jedi Knight himself. But they figure out a good rhythm. And Kanan's like, okay, this is going fine. We'll be fine so long as Ezra isn't tempted by the dark side, because I have not done a great job of preparing him for that.
Next episode, Ezra gets tempted by the dark side.
So they visit a hidden Jedi temple on Lothal, which in my notes I have as the Jedi Temple of Coincidence, because there just so happens to be a Jedi temple there.
It's just there.
Kanan gets a force call from Yoda, who gives him advice. Ezra gets a Kyber crystal and he makes a blaster lightsaber hybrid, which is really kind of neat. Yeah. Random fact about Ezra. He can control beasts with his mind. Kind of like how Trump can declassify highly sensitive military intelligence with his mind. It's like that with animals. Okay. Yeah.
And also real.
Yeah. Allegedly. Kanan is captured by the Grand Inquisitor because he's chasing them all around and shit. Yeah. And is taken to Vader's palace on Mustafar and tortured to draw to draw Ezra and shit. So the Spectres lead a daring escape. Kanan and Ezra kill the Grand Inquisitor and everyone gets away. Vader comes home to his palace and was like, the fuck? Like, I was gone for 10 minutes. Who wrecked my palace?
I told you guys not to throw parties here. What are you doing?
And they're like, Kanan and Ezra did it. And he's like, all right, so I'm going to go find them and kill them.
But first I'm going to kill a couple Inquisitors because you guys ignore them.
Just to release some stress, So Ahsoka rescues Ezra and Kanan from Inquisitors in the next season. And she becomes a part of the crew. Her introduction in Rebels is badass. Like the last time you see her, she's kind of a whiny teenager. She These Inquisitors are like closing in on Ezra and Kanan and shit. There's this big fucking door that opens. Ahsoka's just standing there is like, who wants to fucking die? Pulls her like 2 white fucking lightsabers. The Inquisitors are like, oh, we'll be right back. And she like beats both of them, right? So she's a part of the crew now. She's way cooler than she was in Clone Wars.
Yes.
Like, this is where I started to really like Ahsoka. So Kanan and Ezra end up facing off with Darth Vader. It doesn't go well, and they both almost die. No. So somewhere in here, Ahsoka figures out that Vader is Anakin Skywalker. It goes something like this. Anakin does a mind meld with Vader while they're in spaceships, and Vader's like...
Ahsoka does a mind meld with Vader.
Yeah. And Vader's like, oh, hello? And she's like, oh shit, this is Anakin Skywalker. And he's like, oh shit, this is Ahsoka.
Hey, I know you.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, well, this is disconcerting. Goodbye. So somewhere in here, Ahsoka reconnects with Rex, who is hanging out with other clones who escaped the Empire. They're old and they have dad bods, but like they're doing well for themselves. Yeah. Kanan doesn't like clones, by the way, because his master was gunned down
by clones. Yeah.
He gets over it. Rex joins the rebellion. And the squad discovers Purgles, hyperspace traveling space whales.
Okay.
Right. Ezra mind melds with one, is like, hey, you want to be friends? And the whale's like, I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
So Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka keep running into Inquisitors and narrowly escaping. So Kanan's like, I've got an idea. Let's go back to the Jedi Temple in Lothal and force call Yoda, and he'll tell us what to do again. So they go to the temple. Kanan overcomes his like self-doubt and officially becomes a Jedi Knight. Ahsoka confirms what she already knew about Anakin, which is that he's the same Vader, as Darth Vader. And Ezra does the talk with Yoda, right? And Yoda's like, the key of defeating the Sith is Malachor. And Ezra's like, who the fuck is Malachor? And Yoda's like, you're an idiot. It's a planet. And Ezra's like, oh, okay, thanks. And Yoda's like, lose this number. Stop calling me. Got shit to do. So they go to
shit to do sitting in the swamp.
Yeah. So they go to Malachor and they find an old Sith temple. And they all get separated. Ezra finds a much older Darth Maul who is just like hobbling around. Honestly, kind of a badass. It's like he seems pretty driven. He's got a plan. And yeah. So he earns Ezra's trust. He doesn't know who the fuck he is. He's like, I'm just an old guy with horns. You can trust me. If you can't trust an old guy with horns, who the fuck can you trust?
Horns and weird metal legs.
Yeah. Everyone reunites and they fight the Inquisitors. It's Ahsoka, Kanan, Ezra, Maul versus the Inquisitors. But like Maul's an agent of chaos the entire time where he's like, maybe I'll fight on their side or maybe I won't.
Yeah.
So turns out the Sith Temple is a weapon that Maul is trying to use, but he needs the help of an apprentice who he wants to be Ezra, right? So Maul fights Kanan, permanently blinds him, but Kanan's able to like use the Force and defeat him.
Yeah.
Ezra, as Ezra is trying to like deactivate the weapon by pulling a holocron out, Vader shows up. A fucking bitchin' intro, by the way. There's a light coming down. You see a TIE fighter floating down. He's standing on top of it. It's just like his TIE Advance, right? And he's just standing there like, what's up, bitches? So he looks at Ezra and he's like, what's going on here? And Ezra's like, I don't fear you. And he's like, well, you're a fucking idiot.
Should. Yeah.
So Ezra and Vader fight. It's no contest. Ezra loses.
Yes.
So Ahsoka shows up, fights Vader. She damages his mask. There's a great scene, just like in Kenobi, where his mask is split open. And Ahsoka is like, I'm not going to leave you this time. Like, it's just me and you. And so she sacrifices herself to save Kanan and Ezra, and she's presumably killed by Vader. But they get away. Fast forward a year or two. Ezra has a green lightsaber and is kind of a badass now, right? And now he's being tempted by the dark side. And it's like the one thing that Kanan didn't know how to deal with, right? So Ezra also wants to bone Sabine, and she might want to bone him back. It's not exactly clear. Kanan hangs out with the Bendu, who is a Force user who represents like balance and doesn't pick sides or whatever. He teaches Kanan some shit about the Force.
Yeah.
The rebels become Phoenix Squadron.
Okay.
Enter Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's tasked with finding the rebels and killing them. So at this point, Grand Admiral Thrawn is easily like the sharpest military mind in the entire Empire. And he delivers defeat after defeat against the rebels. Even when they win, Thrawn is actually the one that won because he gets information about them and all this other shit. So at some point, Agent Callus becomes a spy for the Proto-Rebellion after he and Zeb hang out in an episode. Thrawn is able to figure out that there's a spy, but he doesn't know who it is. Ezra and Darth Maul hang out again, and they go to Dathomir, and they both have a Force vision that they both have to find Kenobi on Tatooine.
Okay.
So they go to Tatooine. They're not friends, but they're like, I guess we're doing this together.
Road trip.
Yeah. Obi-Wan is full Ben Kenobi at this point. He's old, he's gray, and he's wise. He tells Ezra, he's like, do your own fucking thing. Walk your own fucking path. Get out of here. So Maul finds Ben, and there's this amazing exchange where like Maul's trying to figure out what he's doing here. He's like, what the fuck you must be protecting something or maybe someone. And Ben's like, well, now you gotta fucking die. And he pulls out a lightsaber and it goes like this. Maul, swing, Obi-Wan kills him. 2 swings, a slash, and it's fucking over. That's it, right? One of my favorite lightsaber duels ever. So, as Maul dies, Ben's like got him in his arms and shit. And Ben's like, the kid I'm protecting is going to tear Palpatine down. And Maul's like, that's great. And dies.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. And he dies with a measure of peace. Yeah. Because the only thing he cared about was revenge. And Ben kind of gave it to him. He's like, oh, he'll get what's coming to him. Don't worry. So while Ezra and Maul were on Dathomir, Sabine and Kanan goes to look for them in Sabine, and they find the Darksaber. She hatches a plan to return home and reunite Mandalorians. Kanan trains her in the art of lightsaber combat, but during their training, she doesn't show any signs of being force sensitive. So this thing about how like she maybe is going to be a Jedi because like Ahsoka ends up training her too, I'm not sure it's because of the force. So shit goes down on Mandalore. Sabine defeats Gar Saxon. Who's Gar Saxon? He's an asshole. It's like, it doesn't matter.
It's fine.
Yeah. Now the Mandos are in open rebellion against the Empire. Mon Mothma is ousted from the Imperial Senate. She's like, fine, we tried diplomacy, now we'll try violence. And so she puts together the rebellion. Thrawn figures out that Agent Callus is the spy. He narrowly escapes and he joins the rebellion. He's got mutton chops. It's literally all you gotta know about him. The Mandos go to war with the Empire. Bo-Katan shows up to help. The Empire has a machine that Sabine built that destroys Beskar. But like, she fixes it so it only works on Stormtrooper armor, and they beat the Empire on Mandalore. So they retreat. Sabine gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, and she becomes the leader. The rebellion is now on...
Wait, I thought that's not how the Darksaber works. It has to be one.
That is going to be a problem later.
Okay.
So the rebellion is now on Yavin 4, which is where where everyone, rumors start to emerge about a weapon the Empire is building with giant kyber crystals.
Perhaps a star made of death?
Yeah. So
Or justice.
Yeah.
A justice star.
Oh, that's a deep cut.
That's a callback.
So Thrawn goes to Lothal and starts terrorizing people. He's also building TIE Defenders there is like a project he's working on, but it's mostly just to draw the rebels out. Yeah. So so the rebels go there to tell him to stop and
tell him to stop with guns.
Yeah. So Ezra makes friends with a giant white wolf.
Okay.
The entire time, Thrawn's Nogri assassin Rook is chasing them, which by the way is a character from Legends. He's fucking awesome. Is chasing them around and trying to kill them. It turns out that some really weird force shit is happening on Lothal, which is why the Jedi built the temple there in the first place. So Hera attempts to fight Thrawn as a military commander. It doesn't go well because he's a genius. Like Thrawn learned everything there was to know about her from a piece of art, and Hera gets captured. So remember, Kanan and Hera are boning, so this is a problem. Kanan leads a rescue and sacrifices himself so they can escape. It's very emotional. It's beautifully written and animated. It gets me every time I watch it, and he dies. Turns out that Kanan's sacrifice also cripples the Empire's TIE Defender factory, which is like an added bonus. This wolf that talks, he pretty much only says Dune for some reason, says, hey, except for this part. He goes, hey, go to the Jedi Temple there on Lothal. There's some weird force shit happening there, and you should know about it. So they go, and it turns out the Empire is already there trying to excavate it. And there's like a Sith historian there, and there's a mural of the gods from Mortis. Ezra walks up to the mural. He's like, the Force. And then it sucks him into the world between worlds.
What's the world between worlds? It's time travel shit.
It's kind of another worlds connecting different points in time. Yeah. That's the best way I can explain it. Ezra sees a portal with Ahsoka. Well, he sees a portal with Ahsoka's space owl sitting on it. Right. And the owl's like, hey, come over here and pull Ahsoka out of here. Like she's about to get her shit wrecked by Vader in that fight from like 2 seasons ago. And he's like, oh, I can just do that. And he's like, yeah. Like, why would I have told you to do it if you couldn't do it? So he reaches in and pulls Ahsoka out right as Vader's about to kill her. Like, Vader's like, the fuck?
Huh?
And then the floor gives out underneath him and he falls through.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka's like,
the fuck?
Yeah. So, meanwhile, Palpatine is trying very hard to use Sith sorcery to get into the world between worlds. This obviously would be very bad for everyone in the universe, right?
Because it would mean he would win even harder.
Yes. So Ezra has the opportunity to save Kanan in the same fashion, but chooses between him and stopping Palpatine. He chooses to stop Palpatine. Meanwhile, the rebels are fighting on Lothal. Ezra shows up on Thrawn's ship, and his friends, the space whales, show up. The space whales like grab the ship, and they
all disappear into hyperspace.
Right. No one knows where they went.
No one knows what happened.
The rebellion wins the war.
Huzzah!
And Ahsoka the White and Sabine, because she's wearing the white, vow to go and find Ezra. Hera gives birth to Kanan's son, Jason. Moff Gideon shows up with a Darksaber. He took it after destroying all of Mandalore in the War of the Empire, the Night of a Thousand Tears or whatever. Yeah. Bo-Katan is now in exile. A Mandalorian called Din Djarin is hired to kill a Force-sensitive child that is the same race as Yoda. He instead vows to take him back to his people, who are the Jedi. Bo-Katan's like, I only know one Jedi. It's Ahsoka. Go talk to her. After a brief adventure, Mando helps Ahsoka defeat Morgan Elsbeth, and Ahsoka demands to know where Thrawn is. So she beats Morgan Elsbeth. She's like, where the fuck is Thrawn? We never hear the answer. Ahsoka refuses to train Grogu. He's like, I'm not going to do that. I know I said I might, but I'm not actually.
I'm not a kid person.
So I'll do the next best thing.
Just fucking go to Tython, sit him down on the Seeing Stone. Someone will take him.
He'll commune with someone. Someone will take him.
Someone.
Yeah. So Tython happens. Grogu sits on the stone and presumably talks to someone, but is kidnapped by Moff Gideon. So Mando hatches a daring rescue with Bo-Katan, and they're pinned down by an army of dark troopers. And at like the 11th hour of their death, fucking solitary X-Wing shows up. Mysterious hooded Jedi starts single-handedly laying waste to this entire dark.
And of course, it's Luke Skywalker. Yeah, everybody knows this part.
So he takes Grogu to be trained. Luke and Ahsoka are hanging out while he's training Grogu. It's not apparent why she's there, but they're friends at this point. And Luke knows that Grogu's connection to the Mando is going to be a problem. So he's like, here's a choice. You stay or you go with Daddy Mando. And he's like, I want to go with Daddy Mando. And he's like,
okay, cool.
In that case, I can't even be bothered to give you a ride myself. You can take the X-Wing. R2 will take you. Yeah. I've got shit to do.
I got to run Jedi camp.
Yeah. So Bo-Katan and Mando with Grogu return to Mandalore. There's an epic battle. Moff Gideon is defeated, and Bo-Katan is now the leader again. Mando adopts Grogu, and they live happily ever after.
31 and a half minutes.
That's pretty much all of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I missed anything, put it in the comments.
Everything you need to know about Ahsoka in 32 minutes.
Yeah. I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff. Like I was doing a lot of that just from what I remember from Star Wars. Scott says, forgot to mention I finished Jedi Survivor last weekend. Nice. Which I don't know if I mentioned it already or not. I don't know, but I'm glad that you told us. Chris says, may the force be with you, Daniel and Chris. Thank you so much for your awesome Star Wars content. You're welcome.
Yeah,
thanks for consuming it. All right, cool. So we're doing
we're doing
play video games.
Yeah,
we're going to go play video games. Check us out here.